It was a quiet Thursday evening. My husband was away on a business trip, and the house felt strangely still, the kind of silence that felt like it was waiting for something. I was curled up on the couch with a cup of tea when the doorbell rang. When I opened it, I was shocked. It was Michael, my husband's childhood best friend. We'd all known each other for years. He and my husband were inseparable growing up, and though life had taken us all in different directions, the bond remained strong. I hadn't seen him in nearly a year, but there he was, drenched from the rain, holding a small duffel bag. He looked tired, broken almost. "I didn't know where else to go," he said quietly. His long-term relationship had just ended. Cheating, betrayal, pain, he was in pieces. I let him in without hesitation. Of course I did, this was family. The hours passed with us talking, really talking in a way I hadn't in months, maybe longer. My marriage hadn't been bad, but it had been quiet, stale. We'd become roommates who shared bills and a bed, but not much more. Emotionally, I had felt unseen for a long time. Michael saw me. He asked questions my husband hadn't in years. "How are you really? What do you need? Are you happy?" The intimacy wasn't physical, not at first. It was a slow build, shared memories, confessions, eye contact that lingered too long. When he hugged me by that night, it lasted just a few seconds too long, and I felt something shift. He stayed the night in the guest room. The next day, nothing happened, but something had already changed. Over the next week, he stayed with us. My husband didn't mind. He thought it was good for Michael to be around familiar faces. But every night, when my husband went to bed early, Michael and I stayed up talking. And soon, talking turned into holding hands, into a kiss in the hallway, into something we both tried to deny until we couldn't anymore. When we finally crossed the line, it was gentle, tender, and completely wrong. I was emotionally entangled with someone I wasn't married to, someone who should have been untouchable, and the worst part, I didn't feel guilt at first. I felt seen. Eventually the guilt caught up. I ended things, he left. I never told my husband, and Michael never came back. But something in me stayed broken, not because of what I did, but because of what I realized. That emotional neglect can create cracks wide enough for someone else to walk through. I still see my husband across the dinner table and wonder if he knows. Sometimes the deepest betrayals happen quietly, and sometimes they're not just about desire, they're about connection. Emotional entanglement in relationships often begins subtly, almost imperceptibly. Unlike physical attraction, which tends to be immediate and recognizable, emotional connections can develop gradually through shared experiences, vulnerability, and deep conversations. These connections can be deeply fulfilling, but when they form outside the boundaries of a committed relationship, they blur lines that are difficult to redraw. In many cases, emotional infidelity starts innocently, perhaps as a friendship, a colleague at work, or an old friend who re-enters one's life during a moment of emotional vulnerability. Over time, as feelings intensify and personal disclosures deepen, the relationship can become more intimate than the one with the primary partner. This form of infidelity is often overlooked or underestimated, yet it cuts just as deeply, sometimes more, because it involves the heart, not just the body. One of the most painful aspects of emotional infidelity is the sense of betrayal it brings, not because of a physical act, but because of the emotional energy that has been rerouted. When someone in a committed relationship begins to turn to another person for comfort, affirmation, or connection, the original partnership can suffer an emotional drought. The betrayed partner may not even be aware of what's happening at first. There might be no suspicious late-night messages or unexplained absences. Instead, the change is subtle. Conversations become shorter, affection wanes, eye contact becomes rare. The emotional availability that once existed is slowly diverted elsewhere. Emotional infidelity erodes trust quietly, like water carving through stone, and by the time it is noticed, significant damage has already been done. What makes emotional entanglement particularly dangerous is its legitimacy in the eyes of the person involved. It's easier to rationalize. There is no sex, no romantic confession, no scandal. At least not at first. People convince themselves it's just friendship, a harmless connection, a shoulder to lean on. But the moment one begins to share thoughts, fears, dreams, and secrets with someone other than their partner, especially the things they no longer feel safe sharing at home, the boundary has already been crossed. The emotional energy that sustains long-term commitment is being offered elsewhere, and that has consequences. Over time, the emotional attachment may deepen, leading to feelings of confusion, guilt, and conflict. The person caught in the middle may feel torn between loyalty to their partner and the intoxicating bond they've formed with someone new. Another layer of complexity arises when the emotional connection is reciprocated. The other person may also be emotionally invested, further complicating the situation. There can be jealousy, possessiveness, or expectations that mirror those of a romantic relationship. This dual emotional commitments, split between the partner and the outside individual, creates a psychological burden that can affect mental health, behavior, and even decision-making. People in these situations often feel trapped, unable to end either relationship without causing pain, yet unable to continue without betraying someone. It becomes a web of secrecy and half-truths, often hidden behind a mask of normalcy. Maintaining the emotional affair may require constant mental effort, deleting messages, hiding calls, or covering tracks, not because of malice, but because of the fear of hurting everyone involved. Emotional entanglement highlights the deep human need to feel understood, appreciated, and connected. When these needs go unmet in a relationship, the temptation to seek fulfillment elsewhere becomes more pronounced. Emotional infidelity isn't always premeditated. It can happen to anyone, regardless of their values or intentions. But once it takes hold, it reveals the emotional cracks within the relationship, exposing unspoken grievances and unmet needs. While some emotional affairs fade away or are addressed through honest communication and therapy, others lead to the dissolution of relationships. Either way, they leave behind a trail of emotional complexity that forces all involved to reassess what they want, what they need, and what it truly means to be faithful, not just in body, but in heart and mind. Infidelity is often associated with strangers or fleeting temptations outside the home, but the most piercing betrayals can come from people who are already embedded within our daily lives. Those we trust the most, like close friends, family members, or long-time confidants. These individuals are often welcomed into the inner circle of a relationship, seen as extensions of the couple rather than threats to the bond. When infidelity arises from these familiar faces, the betrayal cuts deeper because it shatters multiple layers of trust simultaneously. It's not just the romantic partner who has been unfaithful. It's also the friend or confidant who crossed an unspoken but vital boundary. The pain of this kind of infidelity is amplified by the intimacy and access the third party already has. They often know the history, the struggles, and the vulnerabilities of the couple, and when they use that knowledge to create a private emotional or physical connection with one partner, it feels like a coordinated violation of trust. Secrets often blossom in plain sight. Familiarity offers a dangerous kind of invisibility. Because the third party is already trusted, any closeness is seen as natural or harmless. A long hug between old friends, late-night talks to catch up, or inside jokes shared in front of the other partner can all seem innocuous. But over time, these interactions can morph into deeper, private dialogues and emotional bonding that the partner is excluded from. The slow and subtle formation of this bond makes it harder to detect and even harder to confront. Suspicion might be brushed off as paranoia or insecurity, which further isolates the person sensing the shift. They begin to question their own instincts, doubting what their gut is telling them, because how could someone so close, someone practically family, ever cross that line? The devastating reality of betrayal by a close one is that it often starts during moments of vulnerability. Maybe one partner is going through stress, depression, or a period of emotional distance. In such times, the friend or familiar figure steps in, not just as support, but as someone who gets it, someone who listens without judgment. They may offer what the partner is lacking: attention, empathy, reassurance. These exchanges build emotional bridges, often under the radar, until both parties are walking across them, unsure of when friendship became something more. The boundaries become elastic. A flirtatious comment here, a private message there, then shared secrets and emotional reliance. The third party, already inside the couple's world, doesn't need to break in. They're given the keys under the guise of support. Once discovered, the fallout is especially brutal. The betrayed partner is forced to confront not only their lover's disloyalty, but also the collapse of another relationship they trusted. There's a dual heartbreak, the loss of a partner's fidelity, and the destruction of a deep platonic bond. It challenges the victim's perception of trust, leaving them questioning how well they really know the people in their life. Many describe it as a kind of emotional ambush, betrayed by the two people they felt safest with. It also complicates forgiveness. Unlike a stranger, a close friend or confidant cannot be easily erased from memory or the social circle. Even if the romantic relationship survives, the space once shared with that third party becomes tainted. Their name becomes a wound. This kind of infidelity can also reveal darker truths about the emotional fabric of the original relationship. Perhaps needs were going unmet for years. Perhaps communication had eroded. But none of that justifies the betrayal. It only adds layers to it. The trusted friend, who should have been a bridge between the couple, instead becomes the wedge that drives them apart. In some cases, this betrayal leads to complete relational collapse. In others, it opens the door to painful rebuilding. Either way, it changes the dynamics of trust forever. People often say betrayal never comes from enemies, and infidelity by a close one is the ultimate proof of that.